Alright, so we are given a second dip at this for today, and the goal, potentially, is to, by the end of the day, have this gun, maybe not shooting, but loading mags, let's say. I think that's not completely unattainable. So last time, we just added the cartridges. So you can see we've got now the correct, and real quick, let's fix the color. The color is a little green on those rounds, and I don't like that, so let's fix that real quick. Easy thing to do. So, let's open that up. And let's look at our materials here for the copper jacket, and let's make it just a little bit more on the orange and less on the green side of the scale, so it's still differentiated from the case, but it's not green. Alright, I like that, and we ought to be able to, although this might not work, we'll see. Geometry, apply modifiers. Depending on how I import the object in Godot, sometimes I have to, well, that just, let's see. Let's see if that worked. Well, it's still green right there. Let's look at our cartridge. That looks like it matches what I had in Blender. You can even check with the... We really don't need to have it coming from Blender. Right, oh, it's more yellow, isn't it? Let's grab the hex code of it. And then we can just plug that in here. Easy. There. Cool. Then we can save that. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Nice. I like that much better. That looks good. I think part of the reason they look green is because of the reflection from the grass, but that's alright. It is what it is. So, off camera, we coded the logic to drop in 2 magazines for the player if they're using the Makarov, and just to glance over at that. So here's the give magazine method. But this is a gap. Let's increase this to, let's think about it, 18 millimeters is the length of the cartridge, and we're going to stack the magazines next to each other, so let's do 24 millimeters. And then we want to change this, instead of Y, we want this to be an X transformation. Alright. And then lastly, I want to give a second pocket. So if you look at our player scene here, right? So we've got a bunch of positions here, and we have pocket 1, we have pocket 2. Well, pocket 1 here we have marked. We want to duplicate this. Gonna say over here. What was he getting into? There, we'll just mirror it across the x-axis. Alright. And, oh wait, we didn't do what we wanted to do there in the script. So we'll change it from putting the magazines in pocket 1 to put them in pocket 2. And give that a spin. Okay, that's not bad. So Cat's got the caffeine right now. I'm gonna move it a little bit further in this way, and then let's see how that looks. So let's save that. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. There needs to be more of a gap. Yeah. A little bit more of a gap. So let's see. Look at the code. Let's make the gap, instead of 24, let's make it 34. And let's scoot this over a little bit more and a little bit up. How about just like that? Alright. Now, we may end up needing to tweak that if we have different kinds of magazines, that it might not feel like it fits in just quite right. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We could have the magazine will have a property for what gap it requests and any vertical offset or whatever for its spawn position. We can cross that bridge when we get there. But I think that's going to look okay. Let's check it super quick. No, that's not bad. Yeah, the gap looks about right. The position looks fine. Yeah, let's not screw with it. That's fine for now. So now we want to be able to make these draggable. So, let's look at the cartridge script. So that's going to be, say, right here. Right? And it's emitting a cartridge input event, and I'm dragging moving, right? So this is really all we need to have right here. Now here's an interesting question. It sets live equals false when you strike the primer. Oh, we are going to want that. Because we hide the bullet. Sure. We're going to want that eventually. Yes. Let's do that sooner rather than later, so we're not re-importing that file over and over again. So what we want to say here is we actually want to break this into separate objects. So let's go select, linked, And then we want to go mesh, detach, separate selection. Okay. And that's over here. So we're going to call this the bullet. Brass case. And then click over here, and then let's say select. More or less, more. Alright, that's about right. And then let's go detach. Or separate selection. And we'll call this primer. And we're going to duplicate it. Okay. Looks roughly correct. We can always fiddle with it. I think that's maybe a little bit bigger of a strike than we want, so we could scale that down a little bit more. I think that looks better. Yeah. Cool. Cool. We have struck primer or primer struck. Either way. Alright. And then let's export selected. So let's go file save. File export. Include selected objects, transform, geometry, apply modifiers. Alright. That all looks good. And then export. Now, I come over back to here. Now I didn't want to import that, so we're just going to remake it. So if we go to the cartridge scene, we're going to go ahead and remove it. Go new inherited, rename it, So then, let's attach the script. It should already be there. Okay. And then we want to give it a collision shape again. Of type capsule. Oops. There we go. Great. Now, where's the struck primer? It's hidden, but it should have still been exported. Alright, hang on, let's close it again. Let's make sure. Alright, let's make sure we've got it shown. Alright, let's try that. Include selected. Apply modifiers. Export. Alright. One more time. Bam. Change type. Kinematic. We've got primer struck now. We can hide that one. Okay. Attach script. Great. Add child node. Collision shape. Shape is capsule. Boo. 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 That's probably good. There we go. And then we'll go save. Game cartridge 9x18. Save, and then we rename the actual node because we want to keep our conventions here. Great. Now we should be good to go. So, we're cranking. We're cruising. Now what do we want to do? Well, back to Godot. Got the magazines in place. And, actually, go to the script and we look at the 38 special. We're going to want to apply this same stuff here. Oh. We were actually able to keep the model linked. That's kind of clever. Yeah. I don't know how I created that. That would be ideal. Let's see if I can figure out how to make that happen in this cartridge. What if we do this? What if we do this? Right. And then we just do this. Then we do edible children. I think that's it. Easy. Nice. That's pretty slick, actually. And then in here, we can copy that logic, and it'll be perfect. So, hold on. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Alright. So now, we have magazines being given to the player. We have cartridges being given to the player. We need them to be able to drag around the magazines. Right now they can drag around the cartridges. This is the code we're going to want to add to the magazine. So if we look at the magazine code, the magazine object, do I have a script for that already? I do not. So let's open it over here. Here it is. Let's attach a script. That looks great. And do we need this to extend kinematic? So the difference between kinematic and the difference between a kinematic body and a static body is we move around the kinematic body with code, whereas a static body, not a static body, hold on, what is the player? What type is the player? Kinematic. Static bodies are static, they don't move. But what's the other option? Rigid body. Rigid body is being controlled by the physics engine. Right. Now it's kind of tricky because we're actually going to want to switch this back and forth, and we may be able to. I don't know about that. We may be able to replace it with a swap-in object that is a rigid body, right? When, like, the cartridges fall, just delete the cartridge that is the actual draggable kinematic body, replace it with an instance with the same position and rotation that's a rigid body, and then just let that one fall and tumble. That would be clever. But in the case of things that we've been dragging, we've been making them kinematic bodies. I don't remember why that is, but or if it's no, hold on. We need to make sure we've got the collision shape here on the right layers. So let's go in here. This needs to be on layer 3 for the cartridge, and I'm guessing I want my magazines to be on the cartridge layer as well. That would make sense. So we'll start with that as the plan. So let's add a child node that is a collision shape. Just make it a box. And we'll make it the right size. I do question my decision to have the scale be 1 unit for 1 unit. Yeah, I may end up changing that in the future. Because in Godot, in Blender it's fine, it has the precision to work at that scale. In Godot we're running out of digits of precision at a certain point, and that may become a headache, so we'll have to see how we feel about that in the future, but for now we're doing okay. Might just do it kind of like this. Kind of a lazy. Well, we could rotate it as well. That also makes sense, I think. Sure. Yeah, because this is like the click shape, is what we're basically messing with here. Okay. Great. Alright, that looks good. Oh, I muffed it again. I made it a... Hang on. What if we again... If we delete these... We bring this in... We call it model. And we just say editable children. Editable children. Now, we're gonna need to be able to compress that spring, and that's gonna get interesting. So we'll have to see how we handle that. We might need to rotate the origin of the spring so that we can scale it within the magazine, if that makes sense. Or it might make sense to actually rotate the magazine so that it's vertical in its own scene file as far as the track of the bullets, just to make all of the animations and math really easy. Just literally slide them up and down, and then we can rotate that whole coordinate system in whatever, where we're using it. It's a thought. Alright, let's save this. Let's rename it. Up here we want to stick with our naming convention. Cool. And then we're going to eventually run into an interesting problem here. But one thing at a time. So hang on, we didn't actually change anything, so this isn't going to look any different, which is fine. Except that we can no longer click on these cartridges, which that's a little goofy. Oh, probably because we haven't linked the click action. We want the input event. We want to link it. There we go. Great. So, now we want the same copy-paste script basically over here. Except we don't care about either of those attributes. We don't want this function, we don't want this function. Okay. Spelled it right, that's good. Now, oh, hold on, we didn't set the layers correctly. We're gonna put this on the same layer as the cartridges in terms of their collision masks. Okay, now we should be able to drag these. Yeah. Well, the bolts are facing the wrong way. That's okay. Let's flip the magazines the other direction. Player. Let's see if this works. Yeah. Looks fine. And then, now we just have to load these magazines. Kind of like that. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. This is where it's going to get interesting. This is not actually how it's going to work. This just sounded kind of fun to do. And 10 out of 10. It was actually fun. Alright. How many did we just stuff in there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right, now the truth is probably they should only hold 7. Right, so you're not accounting for the fact that the follower's got to kind of squish in there as well. Yeah. So. Now, this would be interesting. That didn't work as expected. That did not work as expected. Which is fine. It's not a huge deal. We can fix that too. Well, and do we want to fix that first? Let's take a look. Just for the sake of the argument. Let's have a look at that code. So that code is in here, where we give we we need to put it in the cartridge group. That's easy. So if we look at the cartridge, that's actually really smart. The 38 special cartridge, right? And we look at the cartridge itself. It is in the cartridges group with a capital C. So then if we look at this cartridge, I want to go to the node groups. And that should fix the issue. It should actually... Nope. I was going to say it should actually fill... Did I misspell cartridges? Cartridge with a D. Is that spelled correctly? Yeah, that is spelled correctly. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So it gave us the difference. So the maximum we can hold is 20 rounds, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 30. 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The max it'll give us is 30. So it gave us the 25 rounds of Makarov that we have, plus 5 rounds of 38 special. Which is kind of interesting. But that's exactly what we told it to do, which is pretty cool. Alright. So, now, this is going to be the interesting part. We want to code the magazine. And while we've been sitting here, there's a couple pieces of code, like for instance, the the loading the magazine. That dragging the magazine, rather, that is reusable between the pistol and the magazine. I'm going to leave those blocks of code separate for just a moment, even though we could literally reuse that function, just because I'm not sure that I'm not going to split them both back out again in just a minute. You know? So, that's kind of the thought. So let's keep this separate for a second. So, now we have a decision. Now we have a choice to make, because we either just keep it really simple, and if you drag the pistol cartridge and it touches the top of the magazine, it just goes in. And that would be simple, And that would get this done tonight, right? And then same for loading the magazine into the gun. If you drag the magazine in and it touches this part of the gun, it loads it. But excuse me, that's not the user experience I'm going for. I'm going for more the user experience I had with my old game, or the Pathfinder, the proof of concept, which looks like this. See the distinction. So we have the here we don't do single loading of any kind of cartridges, so this new one is more complex, right? But I've got my magazine, right, and I want to stick it in the gun. So once it enters a region below the gun here, the magazine is actually reparented to the gun and placed at a predetermined point, not yet fully inserted, right? And now it's a one-dimensional slider at this point. Oops. Sliding my OBS instead of the actual game. See that? It's a one-dimensional slider. Once it exceeds the end of the slider, it then is reparented just to the player, and you can drag it around again. Insert it, and it's parented to the gun. That is far and above, so much more satisfying than just if you were to drag it to the gun and it automatically seats. That's not nearly as fun. And the same thing is true, I think, for the rounds in the magazine, right? Because like in Tarkov, all you do is drag the rounds to the magazine and your character starts pressing them into the magazine for you. Fine, great. You don't see an animation for it, you just hear a little click, click, click sound as the rounds go into the mag. What we want to do is this. But that's going to be hard. Notice that it actually sounds different when it picks up a round. You can hear the difference. Can we jump shot that? Easy. Hey. All right. So, a couple options. We already have the code written in this project for And we don't have to copy it verbatim because we've got a lot better generalized tools in the new code that we'll be able to use to make our life easier here. But we already have the code written for inserting the magazine into the gun. So we could actually code that first, and then code inserting the rounds into the magazine second. But again, we have a choice. We can either have it where you insert the rounds in the magazine simply by dragging the round into the magazine, and it just pops in there magically by proximity. Or, just like inserting the magazine into the gun, you actually have to apply pressure, and there's actually an animation or a slider type motion of you pressing the round into the magazine. I think I want to do that, but that's going to be more work. Hopefully not too much more work, but that's, I think, the next challenge, is making that happen. And it should be literally a repeat of the exact same logic that we're using for inserting the gun into the magazine into the gun. So, but inserting the magazine into the gun might be easier because it's on a more macro scale and we're not doing it multiple times, right? So maybe we do the mag into the gun first, and then we do the rounds into the mag. I like that plan. Alright. I need to go take a shower, so I'm going to go do that, and then we'll come back. Go from there. All 0 of you. Cheers.